Welcome everyone who's just joining us. It looks like it did just turn 9 o'clock. Ishel, are you ready to get
Yes,
started?
yes, for sure.
All right, so welcome everybody. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. I'm just going to ask everyone to please, during the duration of the presentation, please just keep yourself muted. And if you have any questions throughout, feel free to put them in the chat. And we'll also be taking a question and answer period at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic over to Ishel, who's gonna share her screen, I believe, and she'll
Yes.
take us through the presentation. So thank you again for joining us.
So, good evening, every night, everybody. Good evening, good morning, whoever is at the other side of the world. I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And tonight we're going to talk about a subject that really, really moves me. It has moved me all my life. It's about creativity, about critical thinking, and empowering individuals through the arts. So, let's start right away with our talk. Okay, so what is this about from Laureate College? I'm connecting here and trying to reach out to you to talk a little bit about the empowering minds through visual arts. I know that there has been other webinars related to music, which is great. All the arts I'm going to talk about in general, but most focusing in my field that I do. Fostering creativity, what is critical thinking, and global cultural connections. So let's do this. Get this off. Okay, so the program tonight, first of all, I'm going to do an introduction for those who don't know me. Who am I? What do I do? What do I stand for? What am I doing here in Canada and so on? And we're going to start with definitions. What is critical thinking? Everybody talks about it, right? It sounds a little confusing for some people. We'll talk about what has been my experience as a teacher, as an educator, and as an artist. What is creativity? And what are cultural connections? And why I decided to put all of these into one single bubble, let's say. So we're going to do empowering minds through the arts. We're going to follow with visual arts as a universal language in a global community. Critical thinking through the arts in an international context, which I believe it's very, very important to see the new global global context. This is a typo, it's context. Creativity as a core skill in global innovation and the impact of AI. Cultural connections through the arts at Laureate, which I'm not going to be doing too much because that will be my talk further ahead in another webinar that I will be talking about the role of Laureate in the arts. So I'm just going to touch a little bit about what's the importance of the cultural connections and the closing remarks. And this would be a great opportunity for anybody who wants to ask or comment or just participate in this webinar. That would be fantastic. Okay, who am I? My name is Ixchel. I come from Mexico. And let me move this, put this away. I have to be moving it everywhere, depending on the slide. I'm the co-artistic director for visual arts at Laureate. I work closely in collaboration with Dr. Lena Lee, who is our co-artistic music director. Together, we bring art and music programs to the college, coordinating activities for our gifted art students and community at large. I also curate exhibitions for our galleries, allowing students, emerging or established artists, as well as community members to present artworks for everyone to explore. And I put it quote unquote because the exhibitions are to be challenging us, how do we have a conversation with the art? So that's the main focus of the exhibitions here, to have point where we can just stare at an art piece and say, what is this art piece telling me, right? So, well, that's why I put explore. I am a textile artist, I'm an art instructor, photographer, designer, curator. I have my first major was graphic design. I have a history of art diploma, a master's in museum studies by the Anáhuac and Iberoamericana universities, both from Mexico City, and a postgraduate textiles from Stremiński Academy of Fine Arts in Łódź, Poland, and some other smaller courses. My experience as a university professor at the School of Design and Architecture in Mexico City for over 14 years, helping develop postgraduate programs as well as teaching. Through my art practice, I have participated in over 25 solo and group exhibitions in France, Spain, Poland, Costa Rica, Belgium, China, United States, Mexico, and Canada. My work belongs to private and public collections. And last but not least, I am a mother of two wonderful kids, which are Esteban and Sofia. They're both in the arts. And I'm an educator at heart. I work with youth and community engagement activities and developing programs, fostering creativity and critical thinking. So that's a little bit of me. And here at the left is my latest installation. It deals with a reference of time. It's fiber art, embroidered, and well, that will be another subject for another talk. Okay. Okay, so let's start with definitions. What is critical thinking? Why are we putting these three together? Critical thinking is the ability to think clearly, rationally, analyzing and evaluating information or arguments to form a reasoned judgment. It involves questioning assumptions, recognizing biases, identifying logical connections, and of course, considering multiple perspectives to arrive at well-informed conclusions. What is creativity? Creativity is the ability to generate original ideas, make unique connections, and express thoughts or emotions in new ways. It goes beyond the arts, showing up in a problem-solving innovation and everyday thinking. It is heart, creativity. It's about curiosity, openness, and the courage to explore the unknown. Now, you might think that I'm going to be reading all the time. Well, I'm not. I just wanted to put a definition because I think that it's super, super important to define the words that we are involving in our talk tonight. Because I grew up in a family of artists. Myself, my both parents, musicians, ballerina, my mom and a pianist and a violinist, my dad and a symphony conductor. Most of you who know me know that I'm always saying this, but I'm saying it because I grew up in a country where, well, of course, the arts are amazing, but you grow knowing that, oh, no, 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 I'm not creative. I'm not creative. I don't do art. I'm not creative. So creativity is what moves us, is what we create, right? It doesn't mean that you have to be an artist to be creative. We are all creative. And that's one of the things that we're going to be throughout the whole night tonight. I want to make this very, very clear because when I remember growing up, they say, "Oh yes, but you come from a family of artists," as if we would be coming from another planet. And sometimes I think, well, actually, no, we don't come from another planet. We just explore life in different ways. And even if you are um, an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, you also have to be creative. You have to use a critical thinking. And we are immersed in a global world. And that's where it takes us to the last definition. What does all critical thinking, creativity have to do with the cultural connections? Because it's a shared bond. formed through common traditions, values, language, or art. It fosters understanding, belonging, and respect among people from different backgrounds. And this is what is going to make us all get together with these three definitions. Empowering minds. What is it about to empower minds through the arts? The arts, we are providing students with a platform for self-expression and transcend language barriers. Here at the college, we have innumerable countries. We have from China, Korea, Japan, Jordan, Brazil, Mexico, Nigeria. We have many diverse approaches to many things, from family oriented, from cultural, and this creates a platform for our own self expression. And it doesn't matter if I speak Spanish or they speak Chinese or Korean. We have a platform to express ourselves that transcends the language barriers. We encourage confidence and autonomy. If we empower minds through the arts, we are giving confidence. We are giving autonomy in creative decision making. And that's super important because when I teach the younger kids, they come to me and they tell me, well, I can't do this. The other kid does it better. One kid can have more abilities in terms of the use of space. The other kid might be more in the use of uh, creative, imagination. The other would be more shy. And yet, the moment they start developing an art form, be dance, be music, be visual arts, when they feel confident doing something, it gives them tools for their everyday life. And that helps them in their creative decision making. Developing problem solving and adaptability skills, crucial for navigating a globally interconnected society. I want to put this, I always say this example with my students because I ask five kids or five people in the room, you're opening a door. This is a situation where you have to take a decision, right? So you're opening the door, and I don't want anybody who wants to think their answer. You can tell me at the end, what did you think? You're opening the door of your house, the porch, and suddenly there's a skunk walking by. So the question would be, what do we do? What do you do? So from five different answers, I will find five different situations and approaches to the same situation. For example, some would tell me, oh, I would freeze and paralyze and I will not do anything. Others may take me, oh, I shut the door immediately. Others have told me, no, I will go get my camera, my cell phone, and take a picture, right? The others would be walking backwards very slowly. So that gives you an idea of how, in the same situation, we have the ability to solve problems and adapt the situations according to what we feel at that moment. And that's precisely how our mind will be working if we develop more more accurate and more supportive um, artistic development, because it's the creative sense, it's the problem solving, the adaptability. Promoting inter and multidisciplinary learning, where artistic thinking enhances technological and scientific innovation. So here in the panel, we have an artist. I'm going to just mention you, Lorraine Roy, where she comes from a background, for example, of botanical knowledge, and yet her art completely transforms fibers into what she has as her background. And that is enhances the technological through the techniques she's developing and the scientific innovation. For example, if we have different approaches, this would be, in my case, I use photography, I use fiber arts, I like not only weaving, I like painting, I like many different mediums. If we go to a potluck, for example, you will, in making a soup, it would be different. The potluck, you will have all the different dishes there at your reach, right? You can choose this or that depending on what you're craving that day. And if you're making a soup, you have to have the ingredients to create this specific soup that you want. So that's how I see the and I know it's very basic, but that's how I like to approach my very, very plain and simple life as inter and multidisciplinary learning. There's a little bit of confusion that I find when I say this to my students. What is multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary? Well, it's exactly the example of the potluck. The multidisciplinary involves multiple disciplines working side by side. Each, they contribute to their own knowledge independently to be solving a problem. A scientist, a historian, and an artist. Each study climate change from their own field, but don't combine their methods. They're just bringing their disciplines into one same bowl. Whereas the interdisciplinary involves integrating knowledge and methods from different disciplines to create something new or more comprehensive. So that would be the main difference between multi and interdisciplinary, for example, a climate change exhibition, where science, history, and art are merged to create an immersive experience. Okay, so let's go to the second point, the visual arts as a universal language in a global community. At Laureate, the arts bridge cultures, fostering respect and understanding among international and local day students. The area of countries, as I was mentioning, favor the interwoven community knowledge, especially us being in Canada, being a truly diverse, multicultural country on its own. By exploring global traditions, which is important to not to lose, even if we're living in another country, not to lose our own identity, keep our traditions, develop our diverse techniques. And the students enhance visual storytelling, digital literacy, cross-cultural collaboration through shared creative experiences. This is how it makes us grow as a community, as a global language, as a community through, in this case, I'm talking about visual arts, but it applies to literature, to music, to dance, to painting, sculpture, any kind of visual arts. So the moment we share what we are feeling is the way we connect, because regardless where we come from, we are human beings. And that's what takes us to the number 3. Now, we've talked about critical thinking, and here I want to deepen a little bit about what critical thinking can do through the arts, encouraging students to analyze and interpret diverse cultural symbols and artistic expressions. We must realize that regardless where we come from, we are also individuals. I can have, for example, my background is from Mexico, and I can have 5 people from Mexico, and yet we will have 5 different approaches depending on our history, our own background, our travel through the world, our experience as kids, our parents, as where you grew up, what is the region where you were experiencing um, your first emotional artistic connection. So developing visual literacy, allowing students to question, to reflect, to engage with historical and contemporary art forms. We must not lose perspective that even though we can have the whole history of the arts and the development of each country and cultural history, the contemporary art forms, bring the new language, bring us into what is happening. That's what word contempo in our time, with our time, contempo art forms. And it opens us our mind to see what is happening in the world. Living in Canada, I can just talk about my experience. I have 20 years, 21 this year, living in Canada. However, I've been living in Poland, I live in Spain, I grew up in Mexico, and all the contemporary art forms feed us every day, not to mention um, the new interactive technologies that I'm going to talk about that later. But that creates a visual literacy, and that also makes us question and reflect. Critical thinking through the arts, it's cultivating an appreciation for how art influences and reflects a global social, environmental, and political issues. We are completely bombarded of political issues. Well, I'm not going to go into details talking about this, the the tariffs and the wars and everything, because that's not our talk today. But we are all being attacked one way or another through the media, whether you want to see the TV or streaming social media, it will be affecting us how we see the world today. And that's where the critical thinking, I think it's very, very important, because through the arts, we can learn how to evaluate and have our own engaging with different emotional patterns that happen around the world. And that's part of what we as humans have to be developing through the surrounding world. And that the arts is the world that we need to be um, developing more, if I want to say it that way, because strengthening interdisciplinary problem solving with artistic methodologies complements scientific inquiry. Um, we were talking about at the beginning about critical thinking. That means that not everything that gets to me through all the external exposures that we have, be like we say, social media, TV, communication, newspaper, books, whatever, I have to be aware of what is the emotional connection that I want that to be affecting me or not. So that's how the arts also help us navigate all of these emotional engagements in the world. One of the examples that I wanted to share today is one of the um, tasks that we had for this year. Every year, Laureate has a photography contest. This year, I wanted to bring a different perspective, critical thinking into photography. So, what is it about? Just taking a photo, go outside, take a beautiful day, a beautiful landscape, a bird, a plant, something that moves you, something that really touches the lens that you're focusing in. And I wanted the students that through the art of, for example, Sebastião Salgado, which is an amazing photographer, or Ansel Adams, or in this case, Edward Bertinsky, we would base his experience through critical thinking photography to make our students redefine the way we use our camera for this call. I'm putting a quote from Edward Bertinsky because it's the left is one of his images. My work is an exploration of the impact we are having on the planet and how we are reshaping the environment through industry and development. I aim to raise awareness about the complexity and scale of our relationship with nature. So that was a task to study, learn about who was Edward Bertinsky, who is Edward Bertinsky, what does he do, how is the use of his lens, and of course, his aesthetics. Each one of his photographs can be just like an abstract impressionist composition, and yet it's showing the atrocities of mankind destroying our planet. So how can we juxtapose those two concepts? So that's what we were doing. I invite everybody who want to see the show. It's the award ceremony. We're having it on the 26th, 2 weeks from now, and you can see what the students came up by using critical thinking with an example. This is, I just did an art form out of the photo, just play around, don't worry. Okay, so let's get into creativity as a core skill in global innovation. I am putting a quote of Thomas Merton. Art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. And this, I quote it because my mom had a friend, she was the director of the Conservatory of Music, and we can be very passionate going to a concert. We can be listening to a piano concerto and so intense listening to Shostakovich piano, so da 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 da. And she, one day, Aurora Serratos, one day she turned around and said, art is amazing because it can take you to extreme emotions without losing your life. So I think that's amazing. I was going to put her quote here, but it refers to the same thing, enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. Okay, creativity is a core skill in global innovation. Fostering a culture of exploration and innovation where students take creative risks and develop original ideas, not only in the arts field, but in life itself. I am referencing this again and again, and I will not be tired of saying it because I heard it so many times. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't do art. I will not be able to do, I just do, how do you say the stick figures, right? Like the little personas. But yet, through exploration and innovation, we can create and we can take risks. That it's all about innovating through our creativity, through our own self creative soul. You can be the most introvert person and say, oh no, I'm very quiet. But yet you also have this ability to feel, to approach what you're um, thinking, what you want to do, like the example of the skunk I was mentioning. So this it encourages us an open-minded approach to an artistic expression, regardless if you want to say you're an artist or not. This is not about becoming everybody an artist. What is an artist? It's a sensitive person who um, uh, develops a skill, right? So blending tradition and of course the modern influences. We have to be open to this artistic expression. Enhancing design thinking, which applies artistic principles to fields such as, for example, engineering, technology, business. So I have a brother that is a computer engineer, and he's an amazing astrophotographer, and he will always say, oh, but I'm not an artist. His compositions of the sky are amazing. He has a sensitivity to see beyond. And for me, that's so valid because he's using his critical thinking, his design thinking approach to an artistic field. But don't tell him because he will always deny that. And I really think that he's such an artist, I think. Okay, providing students with opportunities to create meaningful, culturally reflective projects that inspire cross-cultural dialogue. Now, all of this comes in the exploration through the arts in the global innovation that we'll see how technologies can help enhance and help us develop other skills, but doesn't cancel what we already have on our own. Okay, cultural connections through the arts. I'm putting here at Laureate because we have some examples from Laureate, but the arts in general could be music, the spoken word, poetry, drama, singing, fine arts, dance. I wanted to put so many things here, but I didn't have enough space for all the collage. But all the things that reflect a human expression. It provides a common ground for not only for students, for and this is particular from the college, but all the different backgrounds, they share their identities. You can have a common ground to, like, for example, the spoken word, regardless. If you want to say a poem in Japanese, I don't speak Japanese, but I can see the intention, the emotion, and the diction, and the modulation of the word that I can connect if she's saying something amorous or something um, really sad or very intense, right? So I think all the arts is to move us in a humanly way. Integrating multicultural artistic practices helps students appreciate and celebrate diversity. And here I'm going to put an example. I'm always putting examples because I love telling stories. As people who know me know that I'm always saying this or that. But for example, I can see a squirrel running with a nut or yes, a nut in its mouth or its hands, and it's running on top of a branch and suddenly turns around. There's a beautiful sunset, drops the nut and just stares at the beautiful sunset. Of course, the kids would start laughing. They would say, "That's not happening." Well, we don't know. We haven't asked the squirrel. But that's the ability us as humans we to have a sensitivity, to get excited, to show our emotions, to show a feeling. And some people who just um, can't express this way or another. They find themselves, I have autistic students that will be very comfortable doing theater just because it's the way they can show that they can be another person rather than the person they are every day. And they feel comfortable enacting the the role of somebody else or a singer, singing somebody else's song. Uh, if you can't say something, but you find a lyric that resonates to what you feel, and then you start singing, it's called covers. Or you can be a performer, um, pianist, or whatever kind of instrument. And probably you're too shy to say this or that to that person, but you can take a cello and play some notes in a very deep, deep sound, and it can connect to the person you want to say something. That's the fantastic, um, the fantastic connection that we as humans have in the arts. I see that is there somebody, some, no, I thought there was somebody asking something. Okay, so let's continue. Now, exploring humanities through art and STEAM. This is what we're doing here at the college. That we have here it is. Recording. All right. 3 new messages. Gavin, are you taking the messages? I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, there's just a couple there was a comment from
Yes.
Miriam
Okay.
saying we can get a fresh perspective approach to a problem solving through creativity in the arts.
Yes. Yes, that's true. And that's exactly where I'm going to be following up because at certain ages, of course, arts is for all life, for every day, everywhere, for our life to develop us as human. But in certain stages of our lives, we need more understanding of what we can do to address our feelings, which is the the STEAM, of course, the STEAM program, science, technology, engineer, arts, and math, help us, develop our intelligence. We need to do also exercise to have a body that it's fit, healthy, eating balanced. We need the science and technology, of course, to develop our intelligence and engineer it for the thoughts. But there's something that some schools or sometimes we forget. We can take care of the mindset. We can take care of the body set. But who takes care, who caters to the emotional parts? And that's where the arts come in. It is essential in helping students understand, connect, and innovate rapidly in a changing world. Now, having said that, we're getting to the importance of understanding the AI technologies. I am totally old school. I like to smell the paper. I like to get dirty with my pencil, the graphite, paint. But also, we cannot be living in an island completely disconnected from everything around us because that's the world we are living in. At the same time, the AI technologies are going rapidly in this century, like unbelievably fast, developing all the technologies. Of course, we nurture the students' growth not only academically, but we need to find a holistic way to understand the way we grow as humans. Here, I think this image is, for me, it's very powerful because what do we want from the AI? What are we letting the AI define of what we want? All these algorithms are everything that we've ever imagined. All the information is there. You can put the AI, okay, paint like a Mona Lisa, paint like the style of Vermeer, um, do um, do your writing as Pollock, right? And it will go, it will start all the algorithms put together to do a fast-paced result. But what is it that we can take of it? Is it really a support tool for us? Or is it also disconnecting us under the illusion of connection? We have never been more connected in the world. All the multicultural, all the countries are like at the time, the real time, knowing what's happening in the war at this time, happening about famine in Africa, happening about disasters and a storm that we would never find before, that it destroyed all the fires in LA. And we know in real lifetime what is happening. Now, is this a connection or is it a disconnection? We will always, as we work with arts, emphasize a balance. We have to help students navigate an ever changing world, but it has to be with intention. It has to be with creative minds, with critical thinking. And that would bring us an authentic human connection without letting us be absorbed through and from the technologies. Okay, so there was a very interesting study in the Harvard. It was called Project Zero, based on interviews with 3,000 youth aged 13 to 20. Now, I know that I'm focusing more into youth because us as adults, we had the chance of growing, suffering, and surviving teenage times. But in this period between 13 to 20, in this fast paced world that we're living, we have been finding that there were 6 key concepts essential to their well being and development of this age group. They are losing their identity. They are losing their freedom. They are more connected with their devices rather than with people. They are losing the purpose and connection. These 6 key concepts seem like random, but they're not. They're very, very deep and important to be developed through and from an arts perspective. You can learn about all the definitions about what is connection, expression, freedom, identity, belonging. But it's not until you really look into the emotional part that you can see, okay, which is my identity? How can I connect? How can I be empathetic to the other person by my side? All of these connections, all of these concepts, sorry, bring a whole bag of emotions when being a teenage that if not balanced, not only we go to the opposite, depression, anxiety, loneliness, sadness, and suicide thoughts. And that's what we're dealing nowadays with our youth. So why is it at this moment that we have to enhance the connection through the arts? Because it's the way we can cater to the emotional development of a human being. It's not about creating. Be clear. I'm not trying to make everybody an artist, quote unquote. It's an artistic soul that connects through the emotional connection. According to this same study that I was mentioning, Project Zero mentions many times that the arts are not a luxury. They are fundamental to human development, especially for young people, like I was saying, because they are navigating change. I know that throughout all our life, we experience change. Like me, I'm aging, my kids, I'm empty nesting, they moved out, they are already young adults. I was a mother for little children. I changed from being a mother to a teacher. Now I'm getting to another stage of my life. We change all throughout our lives, but it's especially the young people who navigate these tremendous, tremendous change. They change in mood, they change in expression and connection with their peers. The friendship that they make in this period are super important. And if they don't have that connection, it really breaks hearts, it breaks souls. And being in a country like Canada, that is half of the year dull and cloudy with snow and dark, it doesn't help at all, especially for that. I'm talking for myself, countries that come from a tropical, sunny place. When we moved here, it was very, very difficult to connect at many levels, even though there's multicultural here. But it's very difficult, it's especially for the young ones to adapt to the changes, and not to mention the technological. So, as a final thought, developing an artistic approach, like I mentioned, could be visual, musical, performative, digital. It's not just enrichment, quote unquote. It's truly essential. It's a life support for today's youth and to all of us. I believe that if there would be more, like in the Renaissance, more arts involved in everything, you know, it would be another world. There wouldn't be that many uh, changes in the ideologies because it would be more humanly developing, and we can invest by building a stronger, healthier, and more connected generations. And know that it sounds cheesy to say, "Oh, they're the future," but it is. They will be the ones who will be supporting the older generations. And if we continue disconnecting us from our own soul, it would be very difficult to navigate a future. And this is not pessimistic. It's just I want to be positive and say, let's get more immersed in the arts. I think this is the time where we can, if anybody wants to, let me stop the share. And I would love to hear from you because this subject, honestly, because I grew up in it, I breathe with my parents every single part. I know it's not easy, but it was a very rich life. And I encourage everybody to try to do. If you have never done poetry, try to put 3, 4 words together. Write things that you feel. If you want to buy a trumpet, get in the closet and just play the trumpet. Get another take art classes or do anything to enhance the richness of your soul. Gavin, do you want to read? I don't see any questions.
There is one question in the chat that I can read for you,
Yes.
which is how can I distinguish between art that truly moves me and art that doesn't? Modern art often leaves me feeling nothing, while older works evoke strong emotions. Am I missing something, or do I need to refine my artistic perception?
Nope. Actually, I can tell you that I love that comment because when I put shows or when I go to a museum, I hear if you go by an art form, whatever that is, and that's an exhibition, or let's talk about music separately because it can be different than the visual arts, a little bit different. Uh, if you go by and then you just take a look and continue, that piece of art could be a very famous painting, millions of dollars in a museum, but it doesn't resonate to you. It doesn't connect to you. Now, it also has a lot to do of how you were feeling that day. It all connects to how we embrace the arts. And it's not that you're wrong. And it's not that when they tell me, oh, this artist doesn't say anything to me. Honestly, no, it's not that you are not connected to that artist per se. And I'm going to tell you, one of my many stories. Um, you go to your closet and you take your red jacket and you feel woohoo, you feel so chic, so nice, and then you feel wonderful. But some other days, you put your red jacket and you say, "Oh, I don't feel like," and you leave it in on the bed, and then you take the blue jacket and then you feel, "Oh, I don't like it." Sometimes as humans, we don't have to be the same all the time. Probably in another stage of your life or in another time that you go there, hey, actually, that artwork kind of looks interesting. I don't know, there's something. I don't know exactly what the artist meant, but it moves me in a way, it tells me something. I don't know what it is. Or you go by the same painting, you say, whoa, you start and you stop. That was the first thing I mentioned in the first page we say. It makes you explore and connect or disconnect. But you would stare and say, why am I staring at this? There's something that it makes me draw to that, this or that. The same thing with music. I mean, my parents, we listened to all kinds of music, and I remember some were just like I would go to the concert and I would just like fall asleep, like it didn't resonate to me. But then as I grew older and I learned about the composer or you learn about the artist, then I thought, wow, this was really deep because he wrote it when his son passed away and then the son was sick and the wife died in the war. It makes another way of connecting. It's not only the emotional, then you have the critical thinking and you have the understanding of what, oh, the period of art is this. That time, the artists were forbidden to do this or that. Or you see the anything that doesn't connect to our culture, right? Like, for example, me, if I go to Ai Weiwei, like an exhibition, and do I connect with art from Asia? It's completely different to what I grew up, you know, it's completely different. So, yes, I hear what you say. You don't have to like everything, and it's not that you're wrong. I think art is all about finding yourself in the arts. The art can find you, and you can find yourself through the arts also. I don't know if I answered your question.
They say yes, you did answer the question.
Okay, okay, thank you.
And I'd also like to encourage anyone else who has a question, feel free to put it in the chat, or at this time, feel free to unmute yourself as well if you'd like to ask verbally. If you're comfortable with that. If anyone has any questions, we'd love to have them answered for you.
Yes, I will promise to be short in my answers. Nobody? Mom, we can't hear you. Can you put your volume?
Microphone. Mic is stuck.
Oh,
Okay,
there we
yes,
go. Looks
Okay,
like
well, just want to say something.
yes,
Art helps to create better human beings.
yes,
For
yes,
sure.
totally. Yes, I totally agree. And I appreciate that coming, especially from my mom, who I want to thank for giving me a wonderful life, my parents. Thank you, Mom. Yes.
Thank you, my little one.
Yes. Nobody? Was it that boring that nobody wants to say anything?
Hey, it's some
oh, you're just
add
cutting out a
something
little bit.
to your.
Sorry, Gerardo, can you repeat?
I-
You were cutting off.
Yeah, add something to what you're commenting.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a matter of resonation with art. I was thinking in the best we're answering. That's true. All that you can. I concord with you, but there's also something that we may say with like many things in our life is a matter of context, right?
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if you go off in Latin or Lithuania, for instance, and suddenly you Mexican birria in Guadalajara, right?
Yes.
Flavors and spices, all the colors, and you may feel like it's too much. So, and in that case, probably your own contextual habit tends to say, you're not connected with this. This not have anything to do with this. The reverse. So as long as you become more and different cultural expressions, experiences, you were like enhancing your own ability, your own way of connecting with stuff. This is per terms conceptual, contemporary, because many times
I think the your microphone is cutting out a little bit to the we're not really understanding the last part of what you're
We
saying here.
can hear you just cut off words, Gerardo.
Okay, sure. Um, okay, can you hear me better there?
More or less. More or less.
So?
Yes, that's
Well,
better.
I just okay, just it's a matter of fancy or overall experience. Stops balance, it's a metaphor of what is happening with art. And if the work questions has a higher price or everybody's talking about, that's and the main thing is your personal experience, how you subjectively react to that.
Yes.
And obviously enhancing what you consider emotion or knowledge or all win. That's the reality.
Mm-hmm. But also, I think in that sense, Gerardo, we are so being bombarded to all the media and all the connectivity that we have around that probably sometimes you don't even like, it's like when they say the pop, 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 the music that I don't even like, but you listening so many times that everybody starts da 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 da. Um, it's not that it's a good piece. It's just that everybody creates this massive like, right? And you let
Yeah.
the flow. So that's when
As
you have
pressure.
to take, yes, you have to take your own decision. Am I going to follow that, or I don't like it at all, right? And that example of the
Find
birria, of the food, it's very, very, very accurate. Yes.
Okay.
There's also just one more comment in the chat from Miriam again saying art saves us over and over and allows us to discover the joy of life in every small detail.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes, and that's so true and so important, because when I used to work for an alternative suspension program for kids that um, do overdose and substance abuse and depression and anxiety, and sometimes they don't find any value in life, and once they start addressing their feelings through art. You know, I did several programs that were really, really um, powerful. And they thanked me saying, you know what, I never thought that I would be able to feel again. And that for me was like, wow, just listening to that, finding a meaning, finding a reason. And that's nobody is going to give it to you. You have to look into your feelings to develop that ability to respond, and that for me was very, very life changing the first time I heard it with one of the kids that were in this program. And I was only doing weaving, but through weaving I was trying to connect with them. I said, how can I make them move? So I had my loom, me, I'm a weaver, and I would say, okay, most of the kids that end up in this particular place, they are bullied or abused or many, many things. So I said, okay, I have many yarns here. Who's your bully? So a rough fabric, a rough yarn. So who are you? The silk, and then there's bamboo fiber, and then there's cotton, wool, silk, and linen. Touch the materials, feel it. Who are you in terms of feel? Then we're going to start building a weave. Okay, your bully, we're going to start making it smaller. I know that this is very technical, but these programs were so, so powerful. And by talking and making them show their emotions, sometimes we get canceled. And I have to share another very quick story, because I think it's relevant to this. Um, like Gerardo was saying, the connection that we might have. Sometimes in this creative thing, when the, the kids need support. And I think if I wouldn't have had the support from my parents, I wouldn't be doing anything like this or supported my kids that were doing this. But I had not once, many times in my studio, the studio here, I had it 14 years. And we had parents coming and telling us, my sister and me, that we used to teach together, but don't teach them too much. Don't teach them too much, because you will crush their creativity. And these were helicopter parents telling their kids, do this, do this, do this, do this, not allowing them to express. And we were just like, how much is too much? We're giving them tools to learn to draw, sketch, perspective, space, uh, light, shadow, whatever. We're giving them tools for them to feel secure, not because we want them to be Leonardo da Vinci, right? But it will make them more secure. They give them confidence, they give them security, not for being an artist, just for being themselves, and to use a paper as their life. How do you do a drawing in the paper? That's you. So I love teaching art. I'm an artist, but I'm an educator at heart, and I love to see transforming kids that really, really, that they're connecting with themselves. They're not losing themselves, they're finding themselves. Yes, so true, Mir.
So we are reaching the hour mark, so we will have to conclude shortly, but we do have a couple more comments and one question that we can try to get through quickly here. I'll read the comments first, and then we can go into the last question. So we have one comment from Lorraine saying, art helps us communicate with other parts of ourselves. Sometimes we can be very surprised by what our deep soul has to say. And then we have another comment, or two comments, one saying, thank you for sharing your wisdom and knowledge. I love how you said that art is for everyone and that you are actively teaching that to future generations. That's from Anna. And then Gerardo says, self-criticality is the father of critical thinking and open-mindedness is its mother.
Yes.
And then the last question is from V. Martinez, just asking with the fast evolution of technology, mobile devices, and the internet, how can I stay more connected to art and the emotions it can awaken in me so it positively influences my life or my
Yes.
lifestyle?
Yep. I can just say turn it off. Turn it off. Turn it off. Disconnect ourselves from time to time and don't let the technologies rule our lives. I mean, listen, my brother, like I said, he's a computer engineer, and I studied graphic design, and we were in two universities. And back then, he even sold his first car to get his first computer. That was, the old days when there was no too much access to computers. And I was in the silk screen printing studio, and I was doing photography. And I would tell my brother, why? Who on earth would study to be sitting in front of a screen? I wouldn't do that. Look at us. Look at us. We are sitting in front of a computer. I wish I would have more time to connect to my loom. But I live in a world where I have to do things connected to technology. All I can say, Victor, is especially if you have kids, try to dosify the technology, or else the technology will dosify your life. And that's for real. I see the students everywhere. They're all the time here. So where are they connecting? And that is an emotional failure. Not failure. It's an emotional lack of connection that will impact in the future. You will not be able to be empathetic to your kids, or going up with your parents or going down with your kids. We are creating these, I don't want to say creatures, because my kids are part of that age group, right? The millennials, I don't know if they're millennials or not, but yes, it's scary, it's dangerous. That's why, you know, I always would say, I love touching the fibers. I love sensing the yarns. I love smelling the paper, not drawing on tablets. And I know that we live in a world, you know, Gerardo is going to kill me because he's super, super high tech, which is fantastic. But I think if we overuse, we are, the brain will have different processes. And by accelerating these processes, we're having more ADD, we're having more younger Alzheimer's, because the process of the brain to store information and to give it back, we're losing that very, very fine line. So yes, if we can just dosify, that would be great. Don't kill me, Gerardo, please.
I will kill you only by laughing. No, I do both. I still enjoy very much drawing and making, prints and long walks and being very attentive to
Yes.
everything around. It's just that I use a lot of technology. That's true.
Yes. Yeah, but it's not too much. In your case, it's not too much. That's your field. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody
thank-
else?
Thank you.
I think that we have one more comment saying, over 25 years ago, I took an extensive course in meditation that truly changed my perspective on life. In later life, I came to art classes and found similar peace and joy in art, which I think is a beautiful note to end on. And I thank everyone for joining us, and
Thank you.
thank you to Ixchel for hosting and taking us through that presentation.
Well,
And
Thank
thank you for the invitation. It was really something that I love to talk about. Thank you for joining.
Is something
Thank you,
because
Shell.
I'm watching your mother on the screen. It's just such a wonderful opportunity. Hello, big hug from here as well, from Canada. I'm in Toronto.
Oh, okay. Yes, well, it's nice seeing
Thank you.
everybody here, and
Thank
thank
you,
you for
everybody.
joining.
Thank you, Shell.
Thank you, everyone.
All right,
Thank you
thank-
for hosting,
Michelle.
Gavin, wherever you are. Thank you so much.
oh, no problem.
Thank
All
you.
right, everybody have an excellent night. I'm just gonna end the meeting here.
Yes, people were asking
Okay.
if you have going to be recording this so I can share for those who couldn't join today.
Yes, it is recorded. I think we'll be uploading it tomorrow. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I'll share the news. Thank you so much.
All right,
Bye-bye.
everyone have an excellent night or morning, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you.
Bye, Gerardo.
Bye-bye.